Hi and welcome to episode 17 of Whisky Without the Guff. My name's Cameron MacDonald, and as you can see we've got a kilt in front of us. In fact, I moved the camera back so you could actually see more of the kilt. What the hell is a kilt about? Well, today I was going to talk about paraphernalia rather than whisky by itself. People keep telling me I should be wearing a kilt when I'm doing this, and I don't think they realise how complicated it is to get in a kilt. A kilt, the formal Highland dress, there's an awful lot to it. It takes quite a while to get a kilt and everything that goes with it on. So I made a concession, I put the kilt out here. So this is my kilt, it's a lovely kilt. And if you're ever interested, if you're in Scotland, you're interested in shopping for a kilt, or looking at kilts, it's even good to go into a store and just look at them. So it's kind of nice to go into a kilt shop. There's two kinds really. There's a sort of touristy kilt shop, and sometimes they have good quality kilts, but more often than not they're really selling what we would call football kilts, things for the soccer fans to wear when they go off to Europe, the tartan army. The other kilt makers though are really formal. This one is from Houston's in Paisley, and I'll put a wee copy of Ewan MacDonald's business card, or at least his old business card, up on the screen here. So if you're interested, you could go there or give Ewan a call and they'll set you up. But it's beautiful going in there just for a look, because you see all these jackets and shirts, and you get a chance to see a whole mess of things that you don't think you'd have to bother with. You think you just go in there and buy a kilt. It's not as simple as that. For example, if you look down here, there's a kilt pin you can see at the bottom right of your screen. Now, if you were to look closer at that, you'd see a crest on it like this. Now this is I think it's one of the Clan MacDonald crests. This particular thing, this is another, this is a ski and do, which is Gaelic for dark blade, but it's basically a stabbing weapon. You can see it's not, I was going to sharpen it up, but my wife told me if I sharpened it up, the powers that be, if I was wearing it, might think I was carrying something lethal, and they'd be right. It's, don't know how lethal it is. It's not got a long blade, but it's obviously made for sticking in something. In this case, the something would be people. So I'll put that up on the thing, and if you're interested, or if you go to Scotland, I recommend you go and have a wee look at a formal kilt shop, not a touristy one, because it's really quite interesting. In any event, that's enough about kilts. Today I'm going to talk about paraphernalia. Every form of sport or hobby or pastime has some paraphernalia associated with it. Like if it was golf, for instance, you'd have a St Andrew's cap or a Royal Troon towel to, you know, dry your clubs, or something like a Pebble Beach, like divot remover or something. So it's the same with whisky. In the case of whisky, if you were to go in nowadays and buy a glass of whisky, scotch, you'd probably get it in a glass like this. Now this has become the norm. This is a Glencairn glass. It's crystal, and I guess it's supposed to trap the notes, the smell of the whisky here, so when you smell it, you get the best thing. You can also turn it in your hand and let the whisky then look at it and see what the legs on the whisky look like. If you're a wine fancier, so how long does it stay up there? Does it just flow away? Is there any viscosity to it? This has become the norm. Glencairn. In the old days, it was more like this. So it's etched, but you know, this is also crystal. That's what you used to serve whisky in, and I used to like a smaller version. I used to like sipping away at something like that. If you, in the case of scotch, you can also get small ones. This is one from the Tomatin distillery, just for tasting. And in fact, if you go to some of the distilleries, this one is from Oban, you'll get a glass, a free glass. Now this, they're not about to give away crystal glasses, so this one is just glass. So you'll need glasses. Glencairn would be the norm. They sell these in 6 packs. You can certainly buy them in Scotland, and you can buy them online. Next up would be water. You notice that some people take water with their whiskey, and if you're just tasting instead of drinking, water makes a degree of sense because you can add a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and it opens the whiskey up. It definitely does. It definitely changes the flavour. You wouldn't believe it, but if you put just a drip, a single drop of whiskey or water in the whiskey, it changes the smell, and it changes the taste. Now this is from the e17 distillery. This is a wee water jug. You'll notice maybe it has a small pourer, but you wouldn't use it like that. What you would do is you'd get an eyedropper, or this is more of an industrial one. You just suck that up because you really only want 1 or 2 drops. And again, you know, paraphernalia being what it is, a friend, John and Sarah, bought me this. This is a very expensive version of the same thing. You would just sort of put it in the thing, put your finger down, lift it up, and then just remove, get a drop or 2. So you really want to control the amount of water you're using, which brings me to the next thing, which is ice. So some people like ice with their whiskey. I want to talk a wee bit about ice. So I have this, which, you know, the stags and everything. It's elegant kind of ice bowl and tongs to go with that. So if we're having people over, I'll leave that out. I don't like ice in my whiskey because I like whiskey. There's a few things I like. I like it to be room temperature, and I like it to be have a lot of alcohol in it. So I'm not inclined to add water to it. I'm not inclined to add ice to it. And if you're a person that likes ice, fill your boots. But think about what you're doing, because ice melts. So if you don't like water in your whiskey, you know, 2 seconds after you put ice in it, you've got water in your whiskey. So you should think your way through this. Not only that, it melts pretty quick in whiskey. It's different to putting ice in water. If you put ice in water, it melts, becomes room temperature and goes away. Whiskey though, if you bring that up to your ear, you'll hear the ice cracking. It's almost like it's under assault, because this is very strong stuff, whiskey, a scotch. And so I think it dissolves a lot quicker than otherwise. So here's the thing. If you like your whiskey with a particular amount of water in it, or no water, you don't want to be putting ice in it, because the whiskey, like let's say there was an ice cube in there, you go and you sip it, you know, within a couple of seconds, minutes for sure, there's more water in there than there was before. So you're drinking a different kind of whiskey, and the longer you leave it, the more and more water there's going to be in it. So if you want to chill it down, which I wouldn't recommend, there's an alternative, and it's this. Now I'll put a photograph up there so you can see this closer, but this is basically a stone. Hear that? It's a pretty heavy, big stone too. Now there's a problem with putting that in your whiskey. What you do is you put these, they sell these in Scotland, I'm sure they sell them online too. I think I've even seen them here in Bevmo or Total Wines or something. You put this in the freezer, it gets nice and cold, you put it in your drink, and so then you get the coldness, but there's no water leaking out of this. This isn't going to evaporate. This is a rock, but it will cool your whiskey down if that's what you like. And then you could add a couple of drops of water or to whatever you like the whiskey. Now there's an issue with this, because if you take the common Glencairn glass, can anybody spot what the problem with this is? It doesn't go in. I mean, it was fine when you had things like this, huh? But they've got a solution for that too, because they also sell smaller ones. So you see, it's quite different. So that will go in there. So you can put as many of those in as you like. So that deals with water and whiskey. So the other thing that you might want, if you're doing cocktails or something, is a measure. So this is an ounce, this is an ounce and a half. I don't use those because I don't make cocktails. I just pour by eye, usually heavily. There's also things you can buy like this. I got this again at the Tomatin distillery, and it's a mat that you would see on the top of a bar. You often see these things on the top of a bar where people put their drinks on them, and if it's wet on the bottom, the wet goes into the mat and whatever. So you're good to go there. And there's endless kind of bits and bobs you can have. That, I mean, it doesn't take away from the drinking. It doesn't add anything to it either, though. So here's a sporran, just to fill in the kilt theme. So what the hell is a sporran for? Well, if you notice, kilts have no pockets. So this guy has, you can put your cell phone in there nowadays. I don't know what they used them for in the past. Maybe money or something there. You can put Kleenex in them, you can put cell phones in them, you can put money in them. And the other thing you put in them is, of course, a flask. So it takes us back to the whiskey. So if you're going to have a flask, notice that's pretty small. It used to be good. You used to be able to take this on an aircraft, and now much less so. So if you're going to use something like that, I would suggest two things. One is a little filler, a little funnel, because you don't want the whiskey to be going all over the place. And the other is a set of these. I got these in a wee leather case, but it's just like a little glass, so you can share if you don't want to just take a drink. You can share a dram in those. So that's, I guess that's the whole, everything I want to say about paraphernalia. So hopefully you found that enjoying or entertaining, or added some knowledge to you, specifically this business of the water and ice. I don't think people realize that ice melts, and so you're getting a totally different drink every time you drink something there, because the ice is melting all the time and the water's increasing, and it's cooling I guess it's cooling the whiskey down more and more. So next week we're going to be looking at something different. Bob's back in town. You may remember Bob from one of the earlier episodes, but what we're going to look at is, Bob's a wine drinker, and it got me thinking, is there scotch? If you were trying to encourage a wine drinker to test whiskey, is there a particular whiskey or a set of whiskies that lend themselves to making a wine drinker go, oh, that's nice, like an easy step, if you like, as opposed to going straight into heavily peated Port Charlotte, say. So that's what we're going to look at next week. In the meantime, get out and drink, and I'll see you next time. Bye.